Okay. Good morning, everybody. It's March 22nd, 2026. We'll be continuing our study in the book of Revelation this morning, chapter 6, verses 1 through 8. So if y'all would turn to Revelation chapter 6, verse 1. Now, last week we walked out the first two verses of the first seal of Jesus opening the first seal. This is the beginning of the Great Tribulation, and so that we're trying to get that kicked off. We're in the seals, and today we'll see if we can get into the second and third seal. But just real quick, a lot of us were out last week, so I just want to go over it real quick, briefly. If you missed last week, please go back and watch videos, because there's a lot of information in it. Okay, so the Antichrist is released in the first seal. He's on a white horse with a bow. He has no arrows. He makes a covenant with the Jews for 7 years. He breaks that covenant at the 3.5 year mark. That's Daniel 9, 26 and 27. He gives Jesus a warning, or Jesus gives us a warning in Matthew 24, 4 and 5 about the false Christ coming, okay? The Antichrist is a false Christ, okay? I've told y'all before in here, Satan and his cronies, they've got a counterfeit gospel, a counterfeit Trinity. I call them the unholy Trinity. Okay, it's Satan, the Antichrist, and the false prophet. Okay, they've got false churches, false gospels, false apostles, false prophets. They got everything. He's got the whole counterfeit system. Okay, and he's always wanted to be God or be like God. That's Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 28. He's always wanted to be like the Most High. So he's counterfeited everything, okay, of the real Trinity, okay? And that's what we're going over right now is this Antichrist, and he's kicking off his last 7 years, okay? So Jesus gives us a warning shot there in Matthew 24, 4 and 5. He gives us another warning shot in John 5:43 that said that he said that I come in my Father's name, and you receive me not. If another comes in his own name, him you will receive. I mean, that's Jesus telling the Jews that. I came in my Father's name, and you received me not. Another comes in his own name, and him you'll receive. Think about what the Lord's saying. Israel, as a nation, rejected their Messiah. Okay? But, now it's partial hardening. We went over that last week. That's Romans 11:25. So I know this is a lot. That's just the way I do it. So go back and get your Bible and your notes and watch the video. And what I do, the way I did a lot of this, guys, I'd play it and pause it. Get my book out and look all that up. Hit play. When they said something I didn't know, stop it and go look it up. I mean, that's the way I did it for a long time. Because they go too fast, and I know I'm going too fast. You can't write this stuff down, but you got to keep rolling, or we'll never get through. Okay, so that one, then the Antichrist comes in peace, but it's false peace. Now, that was the first two verses. That's seal 1, okay? And now I gave y'all another outline this morning, the black and white one, okay? And I want to go over that one. This is just a few more things on the Antichrist before we get to the second seal. All right, that black and white sheet I gave you this morning. Okay, it says at the top a few other things about the Antichrist. Okay, now I didn't get to this last week, so I wanted you to have this in your folder. Most scholars believe he will emerge from the old Roman Empire. All right, now while you're thinking about that, let's just flip over to Romans 9:26 real quick. Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Daniel. They're in that order. Daniel 9. Okay, 9:26. I want to show y'all this one. Okay. Daniel 9:26 says, "And after the 62 weeks, Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself." Okay, and here's where I'm going, the next sentence. "And the people of the prince who is to come." That's the key words right there. And the people of the prince who is to come, okay? There's two princes in these verses. There's Jesus, and whoever put this together, translated it, did a pretty good job. Jesus, prince, is in a capital P. The Antichrist is in a small p in the New King James. Okay, "And the people of the prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary." That's where a lot of us get our information about that the Antichrist will come from the Roman Empire, the old Roman Empire. Okay? Now think about what he's saying there. "And the people of the prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary." Now we know that the Romans destroyed the temple in AD 70. Okay? So when you really look at this, now the Antichrist is the prince here with a small p, and it says, "and the people of the prince." So that's where we get the idea, which I think it carries some weight, that the Antichrist will come out of the old Roman Empire. Now, Vince has been kind enough to pull this up for us on the screens here, and everything you see there in red, that's the old Roman Empire, okay? It goes all the way around the Mediterranean Sea, okay? Now, it continued to grow, okay? The old Roman Empire, okay? Before it fell, it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and taking more land, and then it collapsed, okay? But before it collapsed, it included Babylon, okay? Now, I believe that the Antichrist, I believe Babylon will be revived, okay, when we get to chapter 17 and 18, and the Bible's talking about Babylon, 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 okay? I don't think that means Rome. I don't think that means New York City. I think when the Bible says Babylon, it means Babylon, okay? So, you look over now, and there's not much going on. Saddam Hussein tried to rebuild Iraq in Babylon. Babylon's in Iraq, but he tried to, before he got taken out, he built up a few things over there in Iraq in Babylon, okay? But don't think that Babylon can't be built quickly, because it can, okay? I mean, you look at some of these big high-rise cities like Dubai. I mean, look at that thing, the way that went up over there, and quick, okay? So don't think that Babylon can't be rebuilt, because it can. But anyway, I wanted y'all to see that map right there. And so I believe that the Antichrist will come out of that region right there somewhere because of verses like what we just read. That's number one. Okay, number two, he is totally controlled by Satan. Revelation 13:4. Number three, he is part of the unholy Trinity, Satan, Antichrist, and the false prophet. We'll walk that one out a little later. Number four, he has great power and will deceive many. What's Satan's number one tool? Always has been since the Garden of Eden. Deception, okay? And he hadn't changed his plan, okay? It's the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. Okay? And what do those three do for you? It deceives you. Right? I mean, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. That's deception. You're putting time and energy and money in something that's going to burn up and go away. It's deception. He's got the same playbook, and he hadn't changed it. Okay, number five, he has 7 years to rule the world. Now, he knows the Bible. Satan knows the Bible. He knows what's writ, okay? And so, he knows when Jesus opens that first seal, his clock's running, okay? All right, and then number 6, he has no desire for women. That gets people's attention. So I put the verse out there. It's Daniel 11:36 through 39. I don't know. This guy might be a homosexual. I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Who knows what he's going to be? But you know, the Bible says he has no desire for women. Well, okay. Number 7, he will blaspheme the Holy Trinity. And he's good at that now, and he's going to get better at it when the Great Tribulation gets started. Number 8, he will set himself up in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Now, we've talked about that one, in here over different times. That's 2 Thessalonians 2 there. And, that is like I mentioned in there in number 9, that event's called the abomination of desolation. Okay? That's what the Bible calls that. That's where Satan sets himself up in the temple, the Jews' temple, as God. Okay? That's the abomination of desolation. Now Jesus said in Matthew 24:15, that would be the halfway point. Okay, of the great, in other words, that would start the Great Tribulation or the Day of the Lord. I like to call the 7 years the 7-year tribulation. And don't think the first 3.5's a walk in the park, because it's far from it. Okay, but the second half is called the Day of the Lord or the Great Tribulation. Okay, and then number 10 there, I'm giving y'all some verses here you can look up at home. This event triggers the second half of the 7-year tribulation called the Great Tribulation or the Day of the Lord. So I just put that together for you this morning so you can put it in your folder. And, I know I'm giving you a lot up here in a short amount of time. And, if we don't write this stuff down where we can go back and check it, if you're like me, it'll go in one ear and out the other. Okay, so now with that, let's go to the text. Let's go to Revelation chapter 6, and we're going to get into the second seal. Revelation chapter 6, verse 3, the second seal. Okay, and John says, when he opened the second seal, that's Jesus, when he opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature saying, come and see. Another horse, fiery red, went out, and it was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth, and that people should kill one another, and there was given to him a great sword. Okay, so y'all can see there from the first seal to the second seal, the first seal, the Antichrist is released in peace. He's got a bow and no arrows. He's coming in peace. Now, we walked all that out in the last video. In the second seal, now, and you got to remember, Jesus is in control. He's got the control board in heaven, okay, up there. And when he cracks these seals, these things happen. I believe that when he cracks that first seal, he probably gives that Antichrist 1.5 years, 2 years max to go out and sell himself to the world, okay? He's got to sell himself to the Jews. He's got to sell himself globally where everybody's going to accept him. He's going to have all the answers, okay? To all the problems. Where'd the church go? He's going to have the answer to that. Of all these problems. He's coming in peace. He's stopping wars and he's making peace, okay? And then when Jesus cracks this second seal, oh man, does it change. What did we just read? The fiery red horse and the rider comes out. And it was given to him to go out and make war. So take peace from the earth. So you see what's happening here? This horse, this rider's coming out and he's taking peace from the earth. So, I think it's short-lived, but I do think you have to give the Antichrist a little bit of time to get things rolling his direction. And in this second now, and isn't that just out the way men are, mankind, the human race? It's just in our nature. If you hadn't been born again, we're going to fight. I mean, that's just the way the man is. I mean, if he hadn't been born again, he's going to fight. And these people on this earth, that's what's left. The Bible talks about the people that dwell on the earth at that time, okay, whose names were not written in the Lamb's Book of Life before the foundation of the world. And that's in there twice in this book. So these people are lost, okay, and it's in their nature with fallen man. They're going to fight. So this peace is false peace. Then they start to fight. Then they start wars. We're talking about global wars, okay? And that's where these seals come into play. So the second one there, okay, the second one, he's coming and it was granted him to take peace. All right, now let's look at that third seal, verse 5. When he opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, "Come and see." So I looked, and behold, a black horse. And he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four living creatures saying, and that's probably God speaking right there, a voice in the midst of the four living creatures. The four living creatures around the throne of God, okay? So that's probably God or Jesus speaking, or the Father or the Son. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four living creatures saying, a quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil or the wine. So what this writer's talking about here is rationings, okay? When you start wars, there's going to be all kinds of problems, all right? You're going to have shortages. What are we going through right now just over that little old Strait of Hormuz over there? It's got nothing to do with our oil supply over here, but look at what it does to our country. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what I'm talking about. When these wars start globally, just think of the impact that's going to have around the globe. That's what Jesus is talking about here, okay? So this black horse, he's coming he says he has a pair of scales. Well, that's going to be, that's a show of rationing. A pair of scales weighing this out. Who's going to get this? Who's not going to get it? Well, you got plenty, you're not getting any. This guy's going to get some. You see how that's going to start working? That's really now we could talk about that for a month, okay? But there's no sense. What I'm trying to do is give you the points of what these 4-horse apocalypse is really talking about. Okay, so that's the third one. All right, and I'm going to roll the second, third, and fourth one together, and then we're going to talk about all of them, okay? So let's read the fourth seal now, verse 7. When he opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature say, "Come and see." Y'all notice Jesus has used the 4 living creatures right there in the first 4 seals. Y'all see that? Okay, they're the initiator of the rider going out. Okay, when he opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature. Verse 8, so I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and the name of him who sat on it was Death, and Hades followed with him. And power was given to him over 1/4 of the earth to kill with sword, with hunger, with death, and with the beast of the earth. So y'all see how this has snowballed? So the Antichrist has went out in the first seal in peace. Let's just say that Jesus gives him 2 years. He also said that this would be like birthing pains when a woman gives birth, okay? That's the way this would be. So we know how that works. We don't physically know how that works, but we've watched our wives have babies enough. We know how it works. It's pain, and then it goes away, and you wait a few hours and have another one. Then they get stronger and closer together. I think that's what's going on here. I think that's what Jesus is describing. That first seal goes out, the rider goes out, the Antichrist, he's got a couple years. And then these next 3 probably drop in the next year. So they start coming quicker and stronger. And before you know it, the world is in complete chaos, and that's giving it a light word, okay? Quagmire might be better. I mean, it's going to be awful. So what do you got? You got the red horse going out starting these wars, famines, and all this stuff. You got the black horse. Now you got the pale horse, which is death, okay? Death follows him and all that, okay? And then it says power was given to him over a fourth of the earth to kill with the sword. So right here, right out of the gate, by the end of the fourth seal, 25% of the population on this earth is dead. And so if anybody tells you that the first 3.5 years is no problem, don't believe them. I mean, here we are, we're into the fourth seal, and 25%. You know how many people that is? There's about 8 billion on this earth right now. What's 25% of 8 billion? 2 billion people snuffed out. Now, might be 7 billion, maybe the church, I mean, we don't know when this happens. There might be 10 billion. Okay, and who knows? I don't know, but I'm just saying it's going to be a bunch of people. Okay, so that's what's going on there. Now, we got a few minutes here. Let's flip over to Matthew 24 now that we've read that. And I want to show y'all the comparison verses on this with what Jesus says in Matthew 24 about these days. Matthew 24. Okay, Matthew 24. And we'll just start right there in verse 4. I want to show y'all the comparisons of what Jesus told the disciples and then what John wrote later in his vision. Okay, Matthew 24 verse 4. And Jesus answered and said to them, "Take heed that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many." Okay, well, what's the Antichrist doing? Just that. What's he doing? The church has been pulled out. He's deceiving many. Okay, y'all see that? He's deceiving many. He's the Antichrist. He's the great deceiver. He's so slick, he's going to deceive the Jews. Okay, and you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For us today, okay, that's where we're at. All this stuff is building up to a head. We're seeing these signs of all this stuff coming to be. And what are we doing? We're watching, we're waiting for the glorious appearing of our Lord Jesus Christ. The rapture. We're looking, we're waiting. The rest of the world's going to get caught like a thief in the night. Okay? Verse 7. Before I do 7, verse 6, but the end is not yet. We're looking and waiting, but Jesus said the end is not yet. You guys be ready. Y'all be ready. Don't get caught with your head in the sand. You be ready, but the end is not yet. That's the lesson. Verse 7, for nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. What did that red horse that on the seals just a while ago, the second seal, the red horse, when he went out, what was it given to him? To take peace from the earth, start wars, okay? And what is Jesus saying right here? For nation will rise against nation. This is global, guys, okay? The kingdom against kingdom, okay? And there will be famines, pestilence, earthquakes in various places. All are the beginning of sorrows. Now, a lot of translations right there say birth pains, birthing pains. Okay, that, we read that last week. Paul said that in 1 Thessalonians 5. He said, when they come saying peace and safety, it'd be like birthing pains, okay? Jesus is saying it again right here. But you can see the famines, pestilence, earthquakes. All these are the beginnings. Beginnings, guys, I mean, the world's literally falling apart, and Jesus is saying this is the beginning. You guys haven't seen nothing yet. And you think that the first 3.5 years of this is going to be a walk in the park? You hadn't seen nothing yet. I mean, wait till we get to the 6th seal. Hadn't even started the trumpets. And you got people begging and pleading that the rocks will fall on them and hide them from the wrath of the Lamb. I mean, they know where it's coming from. Jesus is in heaven. He's got the control board. Okay? I mean, he's got the, whatever you call that thing when you play video games. What do you call that? The controller. Jesus has got that in heaven. He's calling the shots and when these are going to fall. Okay? All right. Verse 9. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all the nations for my name's sake. And then many will be offended, will betray one another, and will hate one another. Then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many. And because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. That's the fakes there. You know, those are the phonies that show love, but they're going to lose it. That's how you can tell a false disciple. When the pressure gets on them, they fold. Okay? When the pressure gets on them, they can play church for a while, but when the pressure hits them, they'll fold. Okay? It's like a house of cards. Okay? And that's what he's talking about here. The love of many will grow cold. But he who endures to the end will be saved, and this gospel and the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come. You notice he said right there a while ago, but the end is not yet. Okay, now when all this is preached over all the nations, and then the end will come. Talking about the 144,000 and the 2 witnesses and the flying angels, and when all this comes to a head, in chapter 7 we're going to start talking about the 144,000, because you know the question gets brought up: who's going to preach the gospel when the church is pulled out? Good question. Who's going to preach the gospel? Well, it's going to be the 144,000. The church age. Its mission's been accomplished. Jesus is going back to dealing with the Jews. It's going to be the Jews preaching to the Jews. Now, there's going to be Gentiles on the earth. Anybody who dwells on the earth at that time, okay? There'll be Jews and Gentiles, but it's basically the Jews that are doing the preaching at that time. Okay, now we're pretty much out of time, so I think we'll stop right there and take some questions. Yes, sir.